Hey guys, how you doing? This is Brian Abarca. Welcome to another episode of the Abarcast. I have a great episode lined up for you today. We are going to speak about my college journey and my early employment. Now that we've kind of gone through my little journey on my one-on-one episodes, but college. So, as I mentioned before, I ended up going through my community college first 2 years. I got my associate's degree, and I felt like that was a genius moment for me when I decided to use that associate's degree to find a job at a gym. Because at this time, I was already mentally, I mentally decided to become a personal trainer. I already had my associate's degree. I graduated from a community college, and I was like, you know what? At that time, I'm not certified, like through NASM, ACSM, and all that. But I have a degree in exercise science, technically with an associate's. So I used that for a commercial gym. They hired me on the spot. They're like, oh wow, you have a degree, great. So that was a blessing for me in my first job, just because the structure of business there was so different. As a trainer, you just kind of like receive clientele, while the personal training department signs clients for you. So how they receive income is by commission, signing clientele for themselves, and then passing those clients to personal trainers like us. And then it's almost like a win-win. They sign up, they get the commission, then we get the hourly pay. And then it's just kind of like a revolving door, just like that. So we just kind of have the option of sitting back and training these clients until their contracts run out. And unfortunately, it was like a steal for them. It sucks to say that, but it was a steal for the clients because they were paying for half-hour sessions, and they were paying so much money in the thought of being sold 1 hour sessions. And it's one of those where it's like, you know, I was young. I just started at a job, so I didn't really want to get fired. So I just had to put my tail between my legs and just kind of put my head down and work. Because if I just kind of rub my department the wrong way, they'll take away the clientele from me. So, their sales pitch would be like, well, technically you don't need to train for a full hour of strength, a full hour of cardio. It could be 1 hour of training. However, it's half strength, half cardio. But little did they know is technically they have a half hour with the trainer, and then it's like, bye, see you later. You could go on a treadmill, or you could just go home. And that was all for like $80, which was insane. It's crazy. And I think it's around that price now. And it was one of those things where I made a lot of money at that time, especially as a college student, which really made me aware of my finances. It made me just become a lot more responsible because I came out of a serving and bartending job. And it went from like always having cash to never having cash, and actually having to have a savings account, a credit card, and things like that. And as a server, you don't really need that because everything is cash, right? You know? So fast forward a few months, a few years, let's say. I was there for probably 2 or 3 years, and things started not going the way I wanted. So I started having problems with the department just because the department was almost like a revolving door as well. So the director would get fired, and then a new director will come in, and then the department under them, like the associates, will get fired, and then it would just be a revolving door. I would have a new boss literally every 2-3 weeks. So there was no vision, there was no structure. You know, there would always be a new boss every week, and we would be going in one direction, and then another direction, and then another direction. And that was the difficult part of being a trainer at this commercial gym. And at that time, I was about maybe 20. I would like to say maybe 21, 22, and I worked there for like about 3 years. And I want to be a bit vulnerable with you guys. At that time, it was my first few years of training, and there was a reason why I would not share my age with my clients at that time. It was because there was a situation where I was training, I believe, a police officer and a doctor, and my birthday was coming up. And I believe it was my 21st birthday. And I've been told many times that I carry myself well, that I act very mature, and I seem older than, what I appear to be, which is great. It's a great compliment. And what happened was they asked me, hey, are you going to do anything for your birthday? I was like, well, I'm turning 21, I might be doing X, Y, and Z. And they kind of like, and they were one of those clients that they would do anything that I would ask them to, in terms of, they had 100% trust in me. They kind of looked up to me. If I told them, listen, if you're going to reach your goals by just, doing jumping jacks in the corner, they're going to tell me, how many do you want? How long do you want me? And which corner? It was like one of those. And I loved coaching, and I love coachable clients like that. But once I told them my age, unconsciously, the respect kind of went out the window, just because they were established professionals like doctors and cops and professionals like that. And, they're mid-30s, maybe mid-40s, and they kind of look down at me like, this guy's just a kid. How is he a trainer? And I started noticing that the relationship between us just started diminishing little by little, unconsciously though. It wasn't conscious. They still gave me respect, but they started questioning, wait, why do I have to do this? Why that, when their personality was never, a client where they would always question whatever I would say. And the same thing happened with this other gentleman who was a cop. And I started realizing that, like, some of these people, especially since I do not have much of an experience since I was 21 or 22, they still look at me as a kid, regardless of my credentials, regardless of, what I can do for them. And I decided right there and then not to share my age at all. So whenever they would ask, I would say, hey, sorry, I just professionally don't share my age. And then I would tell them that example, and they're like, okay, they'll brush it off. Someone will take offense to it. And yeah, it just got to the point where, like, fast forward 5 years, it was just kind of like nobody knew my age. Everybody thought I was older. It was funny. It was a weird time in my professional career, my early stages of professional career. Then I decided to go to a university and pursue exercise science there. And what really helped me with my degree in exercise science, my bachelor's degree at this time, once I graduated, that I used it as a sales pitch. And for all, potential trainers out there who are thinking about, picking a major to use for their profession, whether it's in the fitness realm or in the health and wellness realm or whatnot, I used my degree as a sales pitch in comparison to certifications. I'm not knocking down any certified personal trainers. A lot of certified personal trainers are amazing. There's always trainers better than me. But however, at that time, and some that, are not as good as me. But at that time, I kind of wanted to stand out of like the group of trainers that I worked with. And I would just always have a sales pitch of, listen, you could always hire trainers who are certified, but I actually went to school for this. I devoted 4 years of my life into a degree. I went into many, many courses. I have a degree in exercise science, while someone technically just went online, took a test, got an A, and said, hey, I'm a trainer now. And then technically they could just train. when I kind of went through the struggles of doing research on, athletes and general population and how to train, people who are diabetic and how to train people who are recovering for breast cancer. And there's little things in detail that obviously tests for certifications do not expose or do not share with potential trainers and certified trainers. But going to a degree and going through a degree and getting a degree in exercise science, you actually learn how to train someone, getting out of remission in cancer, training someone who are type 1 diabetes compared to type 2, who has fatty liver. It's you really go into detail with the different types of populations. And unfortunately, I know for a fact that some certified personal trainers do not know the difference. It's just very basic for them. It's like, or it's either strength or it's either losing weight, or that's it, So that was, those are the perks of literally having a degree in exercise science and having a degree as a trainer than a certified trainer. There's just little aspects like that. And I'm sure there's certified trainers out there that actually put the extra work to do their research and then implement what they need to implement. But for the most part, all the certified trainers that I've met, they don't know the difference. They actually have to do the research. So that was a sales pitch for me, and that really worked for me. So yeah, that really worked for me. From then on, around that time, I was kind of playing with the idea of maybe going into physical therapy, just because I had the pressures of my mother, my grandparents who raised me, my aunt, my sister, who was just kind of like, you need to get some type of stability, get some income. And I was going to be the first doctor in the family. So all that pressure to become just that in their image and not pursuing my happiness, obviously, was to become a physical therapist. So I had the idea of going to physical therapy, majoring in it, and graduating. I tried it and it just wasn't for me. Unfortunately, after I graduated, I took the time off to work, had a taste of real money, because I was getting paid almost like $30 every half hour, or $30 an hour. And that's a lot for like a college kid, So, and I was working about 60 hours a week, 55 hours a week on top of going to school full time. And that was pretty tough. But, I kind of played around with the idea, and when I tried it, I was just kind of like, I'm not, after that break of 2 years and then going back into school for physical therapy, I just really wasn't into it. I liked it, but I just didn't love it. And I did not want to put so much money in investing in that type of education if I didn't love it, And it was funny how I remember driving down the highway listening to Gary Vee, and it was one of those episodes where he really changed my life. He was talking to like a young kid saying, listen, you're trying to do stuff for your parents. It's not their life anymore. It's your life. Pursue your happiness. Pursue whatever you want to do. We're in a new era where, the norm, unless you are becoming a doctor or a lawyer or someone in that realm, you don't need to go to college, and that really hit home for me, just because it was kind of like, okay, I already went to college. I'm a graduate, and then on top of that, I'm doing this for my grandparents. I'm doing this for my mother, and I'm doing this for my family instead of doing it for myself. And I really don't want this. I'm like literally feeling like I'm wasting my time. So I took like the huge decision, and I'm driving down the street. I literally parked the car on the highway, and I'm just like, shit, am I really doing this? And I literally logged on to my phone right there, and then I made an appointment with my counselor. just to cancel all my classes and just to get at least 50% of my tuition payment back, you know, because I was already a few weeks in, which was crazy. And that was the beginning of a new chapter in my life where I was just kind of like, all right, at this point, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start my business. I'm gonna be a personal trainer. I'm gonna be my own boss. Just because, you know, that commercial gym that I just mentioned earlier in this episode fired me because of, you know, indifferences. Then I started, you know, then I worked at another commercial gym, which was great, and I got fired from there too. I think I even mentioned on my social media that, you know, I was pretty vulnerable, that like I finally just announced that I was fired from almost all my jobs. And I literally realized that speaking about my employment history, I was like, shit, I really got fired. I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it was just a coincidence, but it could be maybe that, you know, I always rubbed maybe supervisors the wrong way, because I've always gotten feedback from them saying that I always act like I'm hot shit at work, that, you know, I act like, you know, my shit don't stink and da-da-da. And it's kind of like, all right, like, if this is a pattern that's been consistent for the past like 7 or 8, you know, years, it's kind of like, all right, then that's just my personality. I can't change it, you know? And maybe that's another reason why I got fired. And even in my internship in my university, I did an internship with a huge corporation, and I got hired after that as a contractor, and I was fired from there too. So that really kind of just added fuel to the fire. Like, I really need to just maybe start this for myself on my own. Yeah. And that's how the idea of Abarca Fitness started. At that time, when I decided to begin Abarca Fitness, I was associated with, I did my internship. I was graduated from my university. I already have my bachelor's degree, and I was working at a commercial gym that's associated with a hospital. And at this time, I already kind of like started, you know, renting out a place part-time, and just started training clients here and there part-time, just, you know, like, and keeping the full income of those sessions. And I started noticing like a shift of my attention, which is normal, you know, prioritize, you know, and unfortunately happened. It was like, I was never injury prone. In the year of 2019, I'm doing bicep curls, and I have literally my studio beats on. Okay. I'm doing bicep curls of like 20 pounds. I'm working out, and I hear 3 pops off of my right shoulder through my beats at max volume, and I dropped the weights, and I'm like, holy shit. And I knew something was wrong with my shoulder. So then I started kind of playing around with it. Mind you, I had to like work the next day after, throughout the day after that. And I literally had to call out because I just couldn't feel my shoulder. It was just like kind of hanging just a little bit. And little did I know that I tore my labrum on my right shoulder, which is like a very common, let's say, baseball injury. And I don't even play baseball. I was just doing bicep curls, which is crazy. And I wasn't even going that heavy. It took me literally almost 4 months to recover. I came back from recovery, from disability. I started working at the commercial gym again that I was currently working at that time. And it kind of sucked because I kind of, you know, lost some clientele that I kind of gave away to other trainers, which I genuinely wanted them to continue with at that time when I got injured, because I didn't want them to, you know, lose their momentum and reach. I wanted them to reach their goals. And when I came back, I kind of just like hoped for them to kind of come back to me, but they didn't. And they were already kind of like in rhythm with their new trainer. And it's like, all right, I get it. So some of my clients came back. Some of them stayed with the other trainers, which is fine. And then some of my clients kind of started training again at the facility that I was kind of renting part-time. So everything was great. I was back to work. I was almost full-time again. I was just under like the 39-hour mark. And I joined a co-ed soccer league literally within 2 weeks of coming back from disability. And when one of my games, rookie decision, I'm wearing my cleats on a turf field. It was a rainy day. It felt like fucking, one of those rainy days in Stoke, if you're a Premier League fan. And oh man, I stepped wrong. I didn't feel anything wrong with my knee, but I fell to the ground. And when I stood up, it was like, oh man, something's wrong with my left knee. And which is crazy. What's crazy is that this happened 2 weeks after I came out of disability from my shoulder surgery. So the year of 2019 in total, I only worked maybe for like 9 months because little did I know, I tore my ACL. And it's a hilarious story because I fell to the ground. My teammates got me up and they were just like, hey, are you okay? Can you continue? It was halftime and it was just like, oh shit, I just got to like walk it off maybe. So I elevated it. I kind of tried to feel whether it was able to move around with me or not. And I just couldn't. I listened to my body. I was like, you know what? I'm not capable of doing this. And at that time, I had a girlfriend, and I easily walked to my car. And as I'm driving to my house in my car, I start bawling, crying. Like I'm crying to the point where like I sounded like a little girl. And I was crying just because I was just like, holy shit. And is God, I felt like God was like mad at me. I was just like, is God really doing this to me? Like I just came out of surgery, came out of 4 months of recovery through rehab after surgery, and now something's wrong with my knee. I arrived home. I called my girlfriend. I was crying on the phone, and she like rushed over to my place. She came with pizza, and she always looks at me. She always used to look at me as like, this tough guy. And she was like, "Oh, Brian, like you're fine. Like just walk it off. You're sprained. You're being a little bitch." That's literally what she told me. She was like, "You're being a little bitch. You need to grow the fuck up." I'm like, like mentally, I was just like, all right, maybe she's right. But low key, I knew something was wrong. Like I was still able to bend my knee, and I was like, all right, as long as I'm able to bend my knee, maybe that's a good sign. There was not much swelling. The next day, I step off my bed and I literally fall over. I can't even put my body weight on my knee. She's not there. And a few days later, next thing you know, I go to like a knee specialist, and it's a positive. Like I got a torn ACL, like literally completely torn off. And the first thing I did was text my girlfriend at the time. And I was just like, hey, I tore my ACL. And she felt so bad because she was calling me a pussy the whole time. Anyway, so fast forward through my surgery. It was mega painful, but not as much as the rehab. So I took the liberty to reach out to a physical therapy facility, Edge, and I started my prehab before surgery. Surgery went well. I did a cadaver. So what that means is that they ended up using, someone else's tissue, in this case, an Achilles tendon, as an ACL. So I didn't use my own, ligaments or tendons or tissue to repair my ACL. I used somebody else's. I just heard that it was my specialist told me, he was just like, the recovery will be faster and you'll be less in pain. So I was just like, okay, let's do that. So once I did that, when I came back, I told my physical therapist, I was like, hey, like everything went well. Then the process of bending my knee started and whatnot. And my recovery was just so quick. Within 2 months or 3 months, I was literally maybe squatting 225. I was able to jump. I was able to pivot. And yeah. And during that time, while I was injured and on disability, receiving payment, I decided to start my website. I decided to start working on my price sheet. I started all these things to lay the foundation and the baseline of my business. So the point of all this whole spiel of my injuries was that I took two very, very horrible incidents, two very negative stories, like horrible stories for an athlete or for a trainer, and I turned it into a positive. I ended up, taking that time to just brainstorm and start building the pillars for Abarca Fitness, and I really used those aspects to really just kind of come back stronger. So when I started working at the gym again, my priority was just Abarca Fitness. So I started there for a few weeks, a few months here and there, and everybody low key kind of knew that I was already on my way out. And then just the cherry on top was the beginning of COVID, and I was unfortunately just, let go because of COVID. And during COVID as a personal trainer was pretty tough, just because, all the gyms closed, even the private gyms closed, and my clients who've had reserved sessions with me already was just kind of in a standstill. And during that time, it was one of those times where in COVID, especially in the beginning, we thought everything was like airborne. It was like one of those movies where like you open a door and you go outside, you look in the sky and you're just fucking sick already. So it was that time where you thought, a little sneeze was just like, oh shit, I got the vid, and it was like one of those things where I was just like, how can I reinvent Abarca Fitness at this time? So little times here and there, I would do virtual training with my clients just to kind of use up some of their sessions, just to keep them busy, and then luckily private gyms were able to open. And at this time, I was kind of already getting out of the rent space that I was training at the gym while COVID happened, and it was just based on mutual respect. We just kind of went our separate ways. We had different ideas, etc. So I found this fabulous place in Union City. Everything was clean, and I was just like, what, this place is perfect for Abarca Fitness. So as a trainer, we kind of, and an entrepreneur, we always just try to look for the best outcome from a horrible situation. So yes, COVID was horrible. My dad passed away with all that. A lot of people lost their lives with all that. There was a lot of gray situations that were going on with the hospitals and things like that. And it was just such a dark time in 2020 that in the moment where private gyms opened, I used that as the opportunity to really try to promote myself and say, listen, the facility is clean. All the public gyms are closed. If you want to use the facility, want to use the weights, you can purchase personal training, and a lot of people who knew how to work out did purchase personal training. And I met a lot of new people, fit people, unfit people that really wanted personal training, people just that wanted to just work out at that gym, but was required to do personal training. I trained them as well. And business was phenomenal at that time. So, trying to apply that to any future trainers out there, any entrepreneurs out there, is to always try to get the best out of a negative or dark situation. And that's something that I did. And that was almost like, Abarca Fitness was just rising up, and the unfortunate case of COVID just kind of just propelled my business up into, the 6-figure mark. It was great. All right. So, we are going to transition into questions, guys. So first question is, what are the pros and cons of a trainer? And I really had to, I answered this on Instagram briefly, but I really wanted to think about what I was going to say in this, because My job is kind of hard. It's difficult, not in a job aspect, um, as much as a life aspect. You know, yeah, there's the perks of, wearing comfortable clothes and always wearing sweats and etc. Just being in a relaxed fit. But you really just don't have the time to do anything. You got to think about it like this. We're actually catering to the schedules of our clients, at least for the most part, in general. There has to be some type of like middle ground where if you want to pick your days, okay, great. But if they don't coincide with your clients, then, you're screwed. So you have to make this agreement. And especially if you're starting off as a trainer in the beginning, you're literally just like based off their schedule. Like you have no schedule. Your schedule is theirs. So the long nights of waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning for a 5 o'clock client, and then just training for, let's say, 4 hours, and then having a break of 3 hours, and then working for another 4 hours, and then having a break of 1 hour, and then another 5 hours straight, and then you finishing off from work at 11 p.m. times that by 7 or 6. That's the life of a trainer in the beginning. Some people could handle it, some people don't, and it's tough having time for yourself. To trying to find happiness, trying to find some hobbies, trying to have family time, and even trying to maintain a relationship. For us trainers, we're so like looked at or frowned upon from, not being able to maintain relationships. And for the most part, most of the time, most of the issues are schedule wise. Like we just don't have time, and we're almost like tired. Sometimes I remember I used to just finish a 15-hour day, 16-hour day, and I would just want to go home and just like just be in silence, or just like not be bothered. You've been socializing for so long, for 16 hours days, for 16-hour in a day, and like you just don't want to socialize anymore, even though you're a sociable person. So when, your significant other, your boyfriend or your girlfriend is kind of like, hey, I'm here, speak to me, I need some more attention, etc. You're just kind of like, how much socializing do I need? How much time do I need so that you could just be happy, so that I could just finally just scratch my ass and be alone and just chill. And it just sounds so bad. It sounds so mean, but like, just people that are in that situation, I know they understand what I'm trying to say, because like you're just working so much 5 or 6 days out of the week, and then that one day that you have just to hang out and just relax, you want to maybe work out, you want to maybe play some soccer, you maybe want to just hang out with your grandparents or hang out with your mom, or you have bills to pay, or you have, errands to run, you have to do laundry, but yet, your significant other needs to just kind of like say, hey, I need a date night, I need some attention. And it's tough. And unless the significant other understands entrepreneurship, understands the business, a business owner life, and especially understands a personal trainer lifestyle, it's tough for us to find another significant other who, can kind of be our peace. It's tough. So that's definitely, that falls under the pros and cons of a trainer. That, and on top of a hectic schedule, like I mentioned, if you want to make that money, you're working Monday through Saturday, Monday through Sunday, you're working 24/7, or sometimes even on your days off and you need that extra cash. On your days off, you're randomly just working at 1 p.m. or 12 p.m. You're in and out of the gym. You're in and out of, freelancing from gym to gym, or jumping from gym to gym. I remember when I used to freelance, I would have to work at one gym for 5 hours, then calculate my travel time to one of my clients' apartments, train them for an hour, calculate coming back with traffic, and then work and finish my shift at the same gym from earlier. And it's just like a lot of traveling as well. It's tough. It's tough. And it's not for everyone unless you love what you do. And I would not change anything that I've done. I would not change any mistake that I've done in the past. I'm here now because of the mistakes, because of what I've went through, relationships or no relationships, because of the people that I've met, the network that I've done, the potential clients that I might have met, the clients that I lost, the clients that I had, still have, like everything. Just, you know, if you love your job, you are just happy, you know, where you are and where you continue wishing to be. You know what I mean? Last question. Should I be spacing out cardio from my strength training? In essence, when to do cardio. There's fasted cardio that a lot of people really like to do. That's, you know, fasted cardio is like first thing in the morning, you don't consume anything to eat or drink. You just go to do some cardio, and then, you know, you start your day from there. I found some success in that when I was younger. Now that I'm a little older, I can't really do that. I feel weak when I don't consume anything. But everybody's different. I have some clients that still do that, and they're a little older than me, and it works great for them. When to do cardio in general, what I usually like to tell my clients is to do cardio after their training session, after their lift, just because in essence how your body works is your body ends up kind of like burning all the glucose, all the sugar in your body, all the fuel in your body. And if you waste it just on cardio, you're not going to have enough left for your strength training and your weightlifting. So what worked for me and what worked for my clients is always doing cardio after your workouts, after your strength training, never before. Now doing cardio as a warm-up, I'm talking about like a 5-10 minute warm-up. Okay, you could do that. Do I prefer you doing some mobility work and do proper warm-ups and body mechanic work and some glute activations and activations of certain muscle groups before a lift? I'd rather you do that than just doing the basic, go on the Stairmaster or go on the treadmill for 5 minutes and that's your warm-up. But that's my take on when to do cardio. All right, guys, I hope this episode was helpful for you guys, whether it was towards becoming a personal trainer, starting your business, etc., or, you know, just knowing when to do cardio and just the curiosity of the pros and cons of my job and my life. All right, guys, so that's the ending of my episode. I'll see you guys next week. Just don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and make sure you guys answer my questions on Question Mondays on my Instagram at abarca.fitness. All right, see you guys soon. Love you all.